If you've ever walked out of a job interview thinking something felt off, you're probably right. And today, I'm going to be exposing 7 incredibly specific job interview red flags that most candidates completely miss. We're talking about subtle signs that the company culture is truly toxic, the boss is a nightmare, or that the job could seriously derail your career. And as a former corporate recruiter with 20 years of experience, I've seen these play out more times than I can count. So let's break them down one by one. Let's start with one that's easy to miss until it's too late. They get offended if you ask a legit question in the interview. Now, if you follow this channel, you already know that I'm a proponent of asking questions throughout the interview process to not only help you determine if it's a good fit for you, but also to learn some strategy that you can apply throughout the rest of the interviewing process. You might ask about team culture, decision-making authority, or even how performance is measured. And those are all legitimate things that you should assess in your interview. But instead of giving a clear answer, they get angry or upset, potentially agitated. Now, that's a big red flag because it shows that they're ego-driven, thin-skinned, or insecure. And if your boss is the one giving you a hard time, that's a really dangerous combination. Listen, interviewing is a two-way street. And if you're going to reclaim control in your career, you must make sure that the job aligns with your long-term career goals. Asking questions isn't just a checkbox you need to fill, but rather it's a requirement to ensure that you're making good decisions. And besides, if that manager can't handle questions asked during the interview, imagine how they're going to respond when you challenge the status quo or offer a different opinion on the job. Next up, if they ask you bizarre or aggressive questions meant to rattle you. This isn't about assessing how you solve problems, but rather it's a control tactic. And sales interviews are notorious for this. They love to see how you handle difficult customers, so they put you in high-stress situations. And Google famously asks candidates the impossible question like, how many golf balls can fit into a school bus? Just to see how you react and how you approach problem solving. What they're doing is trying to test your composure. But here's the truth. Great companies don't need to manufacture stress. Besides, if they're trying to break you in the interview, what's the actual job environment going to be like? And if it's your boss that's the instigator, you can assume that you're walking into a nightmare. This is not a test, it's a preview. Next, we have high pressure offer timelines. Have you ever been given an offer where you've been told that you have 24 hours to decide? It's not coincidence, that's a pressure tactic. Employers who rush your decision often are trying to stop you from comparing the offer, negotiating, or thinking through things. Now, as a recruiter, I can tell you that it's completely common to take up to a week to get back to a company. But if they threaten to pull the offer after only a day or two, that's a complete red flag. What that tells me is that you're either an unscrupulous employer trying to take advantage of a vulnerable candidate, or they don't consider you to be a strong candidate to begin with. Remember, any company that truly values you should value your ability to make a well-informed decision. High pressure tactics equal low integrity. Unfortunately, the next one is becoming way too common. A company will ask you to do a take-home assignment that conveniently solves a real company problem. Or worse, they ask you to show up and work a test shift before hiring. Now, short case studies are one thing, but when it crosses over to unpaid consulting, that's when it becomes the red flag. In fact, this has actually happened to me. I was asked to put together a hiring strategy for a startup and present it to the CEO. And so I worked on it throughout the entire weekend, spending several hours polishing it up, even creating a video, and then submitting it. And not only did they not ask a single question or have me explain anything in my slide deck presentation, but they later took some of my ideas and implemented them after rejecting me. So therefore, anytime a company requires a take-home assignment, I'm always going to ask the following questions. Is this a realistic sample task? Or am I solving an actual business issue for free? Now, short assignments are fine and use your judgment if you want to take them on. But the lengthy ones that I'd normally charge a consulting fee for, not so much. Next up is the never-ending interview loop. You've met the hiring manager, then a teammate, then the VP, then somebody from the other department. Then they want to have you talk to the technical lead. And then they say, we just have one more person we want you to talk with. That's not due diligence. That's indecision. And unfortunately, what this often means is they don't believe you're the right fit, and they're shopping around while trying to convince themselves or trying to buy more time. Here's the problem. if you get hired into a role where they already have some doubts, you'll get way less support and far less benefit of doubt when challenges come up. A company who truly wants you doesn't keep you dangling. And besides, do you really want to be somebody's second or third choice or have a boss who feels like he's settled? So just be careful because you may be setting yourself up for failure down the line. Next, we have a sneaky one. They just laid off a bunch of full-time staff, and now they're hiring contractors for the exact same work, and usually at a fraction of the salary and with no benefits. That's not innovation. It's actually cost cutting. And in today's market, companies have notoriously been laying people off and replacing them with cheaper options. And if you're being brought in as a contractor to replace a full-time employee, it's a sign that they're shifting risk away from themselves and onto you, meaning that they're looking to circumvent some traditional employment protections and they're not paying taxes or benefits. And if this is the case, you're probably that cheaper option that they're trying to replace the full-time people with. Now, that can be okay if you're aware of the trade-offs and you know how to negotiate contractor salaries. But walk in eyes wide open and with a strategy. And finally, we have the one that tells you everything you need to know. It's if they ask you, what's the minimum salary that you would accept? And in particular, if they ask you this at the very end of the interviewing process, after you've already had initial salary discussions and they're ready to make an offer. Because that's not a negotiation tactic, that's an attempt to lowball you. Great companies will want to know what your expectations are so they can meet you in a fair place. But when they ask about your minimum, what they're telling you is they care more about the cost than the value you provide. So basically, what they're asking is, how cheap can we get you? Now, of course, never give them your lowest. You always want to flip it back and say, I'm expecting a fair market salary aligned with the expectations and what we've talked about earlier in the interview process. And if they continually insist on pushing you to the lowest amount, you need to start thinking about whether or not this is the right fit for you. If you need more guidance on how to answer the salary expectation question like a pro, check out my other video on how to answer this question in the interview. The interview process isn't just about impressing the company. It's about evaluating them too. These red flags are your early warning signs. If you ignore them, you could end up in a job that drains you, devalues you, or potentially even derails your career. But if you spot them early, you can walk away with the confidence of knowing that you made the right decision and wait for a company that truly sees your value. Now, if you found this helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you're struggling in your interviewing, that's actually something that I do specialize in. I've got a website called lifeafterlayoff.com, which is loaded with all kinds of articles that you can read about interviewing and job search. And I've created a detailed course on how to navigate the entire job search process. And it's called the Ultimate Job Seeker Bootcamp. And it covers everything from job application all the way through job offer, breaking down everything that companies do from a recruiter's perspective. And I provide you clear strategies on how to ace each interview and negotiate your next offer with the confidence that you're not leaving a dime on the table and you can give yourself a bit more an advantage to walk away from these low quality employers. So if you're struggling landing your next job, check out the Ultimate Job Seeker Bootcamp. Anyway, good luck in your interview. Hopefully you found this video to be helpful and we will catch you on the next one.